Hello, folks. This story was sent to me by a subscriber and is intended for educational purposes only. Thank you for watching. 5 Mayo DMT 50 mg. The cosmic coffee shop that knew too much. It started with a tiny little white powder, barely noticeable on the mirror's edge. But I knew what it was. 5 Mayo DMT. About 50 milligrams, enough to blast me off the map. I was alone in my apartment, late at night, thinking I'd dive deep, but stay grounded enough to keep some control. I inhaled the vapor and immediately felt like my soul was trying to squeeze through a keyhole the size of a grain of rice. Suddenly, everything dissolved. My apartment melted into pure light and sound, and I found myself standing in the middle of the most bizarre coffee shop I'd ever seen. It wasn't just any coffee shop. It was cosmic. The walls shimmered like the northern lights, but in neon pinks and electric blues. The floor was made of clouds, soft and slightly sticky, like cotton candy had a secret pact with gravity. The air smelled like espresso and stardust mixed with a hint of mystery. Behind the counter was a barista who looked like a blend of Salvador Dali and a wise old owl, complete with a tiny monocle and a perfectly groomed mustache that twitched every time someone ordered. The menu was a kaleidoscope of impossible drinks: quantum macchiato, nebula latte, black hole brew, and something called ego shatter espresso that promised a serious trip on its own. I sat at a table that morphed into whatever I needed: a desk for thoughts, a hammock for relaxation, a trampoline for bouncing ideas. The barista approached, sliding a cup across the table that shimmered with liquid light. "This is your order," he said, voice like jazz music played underwater. I took a sip, and immediately the room dissolved again, only to reassemble inside my mind's theater, where scenes from my life played out on huge floating screen. But it wasn't just a passive viewing. Oh no, this coffee shop had a wild sense of humor. The characters on the screen were caricatures of my own personality traits, arguing and gossiping. The anxious me was nervously spilling cosmic coffee everywhere, while confidently down a glittering cake. Suddenly, a chorus of tiny animated caffeine molecules floated by, singing a song about the paradox of choice and the meaning of existence. They convinced me to join their dance, so I found myself bouncing around the coffee shop with these lively little creatures, laughing uncontrollably. The barista owl winked and said, "Most don't make it this far without tripping over their own ego." I noticed a door labeled "Self-Reflection Restroom." Curious, I stepped inside. It was a vast hall of mirrors, but these mirrors didn't just show my reflection. Each mirror showed a different what-if scenario of my life. What if I became a rock star? What if I lived on Mars? What if I were a sentient houseplant? Each reflection gave witty commentary, cracking jokes and roasting me in a way only my subconscious could. Back at the counter, the barista asked if I wanted a refill, offering something called Eternal Enigma Espresso. I nodded, feeling brave. As I sipped, the coffee shop started to morph again. Now it was an endless library, where books flew like birds and whispered forgotten memories and lost dreams. I tried to grab one. It turned into a butterfly and flew away, giggling. At one point, the coffee shop's jukebox started playing a tune that made all the furniture dance. Tables waltzed with chairs. Lamps twirled with sofas, and the coffee cups spun a jitterbug. I joined the furniture dance, feeling absurdly happy, until the floor beneath me turned into a trampoline, and I bounced so high I popped out of the ceiling into the stars. Floating in space, I realized the coffee shop was a metaphor, a quirky, caffeine-fueled journey through my own psyche, pushing me to laugh at my fears, question my doubts, and embrace the absurdity of existence. As the trip began to fade, I thanked the owl barista, who nodded knowingly and handed me a cosmic business card with the address everywhere and nowhere. Back in my apartment, I felt oddly refreshed, like I'd just been to the universe's quirkiest coffee break. The colors on my walls were still a bit too bright, and I swear I heard the faint sound of jazz somewhere. I smiled, knowing that sometimes the weirdest places hold the deepest truths, and a really good cup of cosmic coffee